right, let's look at your crime stats now. And we told you earlier that an incredible number, 76 people are murdered each and every day in South Africa. Let's just look at some of the numbers which show that women's bodies, in fact, remain punching bags as well. The police minister is saying today that there have been double-digit increases in all crimes affecting women and the most vulnerable, including children. So let's look at some of the numbers. More than 7,000 people were murdered in the 3 months until the end of September. So we're looking at a quarterly figure here, and that's up by more than 13% compared to a year ago. Now, most of the murders, by the way, more than 3,000 of these were due to arguments or road rage or some sort of provocation. So we're starting to understand motives. About 360 were during robberies. Sometimes there are multiple murders. Police are investigating 250 dockets of multiple murders over this period. The murder of women has gone up. Look at that incredible stat again. So 989 women murdered in 3 months. And by the way, more than 1,200 women just narrowly escaped death, with police investigating attempted murder in those cases. 315 innocent children were killed. Now let's look at the category of assault. And this, by the way, is assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm. So it's serious assault, and that saw the highest increase in 5 years. Of the more than 85,000 people assaulted, around 13,000, or way more than 13,500, in fact, were women, and nearly 2,000 children were brutally assaulted. Finally, let's look at something else South Africa is deeply concerned about, and that is rapes. If I go to the rape stats here, more than 10,000 rapes, and we know that rapes often affect women, and that's more than 115 rapes happening each and every day. As we were discussing earlier, Bongiwe and I, a large amount of these, more than 5,000 incidents, took place at somebody's home. More than 1,600 did take place, though, in public places such as streets or parks. It's also worth noting that more than a similar number, 1,500 or so, were raped at a liquor outlet, showing a link between alcohol consumption and sexual violence. And then the sad part, the number of convictions is only 286. So after several thousand rapes, 286 convictions in the same 3 months. Now to discuss, we're joined by Dereleen James. She is an anti-drug activist in Eldorado Park in Johannesburg. We're also joined by Ian Cameron, who is the Director of Community Safety at Action Society. Let me start with you, Mr. Cameron. Surely this suggests that crime is simply out of control.
No, absolutely. I think what shocked me, look, we can talk about the statistics now, but what really bothered me about today is that I didn't see South African Police Service Management or Police Minister that seem to have a plan. There's no strategy, there's no short-term plan or structure that they're going to use to tackle the issue. We don't see the Minister of Justice sitting next to the Minister of Police saying, hey, how can we be jointly accountable for this? What can we do to solve this together? It's just another lukewarm reading of statistics. And, I want them to say the names of the little children that are murdered, because currently between 3 and 4 kids are murdered every single day in the country. It's between 3 and 4 murders per hour in the country. They need to start saying the names, because at the moment it is purely talking numbers as though our people are just statistics.
Yeah, and those children are so innocent. It's just so sad. Dereleen James, we've often spoken to you about what you're experiencing on the ground in Eldorado Park. Are you feeling this increase? I remember during COVID-19, we were saying maybe it's because people are confined. Society doesn't have an outlet. That's why we're seeing more incidents of domestic violence, for example. But since then, it's just gone up and up and up.
Thank you so much, Francis, and good afternoon to the viewers. I think listening to this minister's test, it almost justifies our camp outside steps for the past 74 days, where we see daily how victims of gender-based violence get turned away. In Eldorado Park, before we even get to the crime, allow me to speak about these bodies and Department of Justice and the courts not even having paper or having ink to actually issue someone with a protection order, an application. So that's where the failure starts. And this is why we're seeing these horrendous crime stats.
Just tell me more, because I know there have been protests outside the police station. Are you witnessing that, that a woman comes to report a crime and is not able to do so because of no pens?
Let me tell you this. On the first day of our camp, someone came there that was raped at a vandalized building. There was no female officer on duty to assist her. There was no one from the Victim Empowerment Center to assist her. She was openly being grossly violated, suffering secondary trauma in the front section of SABC. There was no one there to assist her. For starters, there was a lack of interest, a lack of will. 2 weeks ago, someone walked in there that was beaten up. You know, she walked out and I asked her why she's crying. And she said to me, because they said that she should first go get a protection order and then come and open up a case, because they can't do it without a protection order. I then walked her back into the police station. I then reported the matter. To date, we haven't received a response. So the stats that we're getting, it's not even shocking to me. I'm even thinking it's underreported based on what we are going through in Eldorado Park. We have a booklet at our tent of all these victims that has been turned away and told, go and get that.
All right, Dereleen, we lost you there. I'll try to come back to you. I think we got the gist of what you're saying. Ian, you said that the police minister doesn't seem to have a plan. Bheki Cele did say that these quarterly figures are really a tool to help guide the SAPS. They can shift resources to where they are needed most. But we're seeing the same areas coming up again and again and again. So do you believe that shifting, that prioritization is happening or not?
No, I think Bheki Cele is a liar. Sorry, I'm saying it, I'm being brutally honest. I was in Khayelitsha today, I was in Harare today, I was in Gugulethu today, I was in Mitchells Plain today. None of the promises that he has made over the last 2 years have been delivered. And I'm sure Dereleen will agree with me in Eldorado Park, the same thing. We have these stupid imbizos where people sit around a table and we need to listen to showboating ministers and other senior figures of government. But on ground level, they have completely lost touch with what happens to people on reality. There are so many victims that we've represented over the last few months that go to police stations and they are told that they don't have any physical wounds and therefore the incident didn't happen with them, or they need to bring the rapist to the police station to show the police who it is. It's mind-boggling to listen to some of the excuses, and then I speak to some of the good cops on ground level. Harare today in the Cape Flats, the cops there don't have fuel for the generator at the police station. So not only is it dangerous for victims to go to the police station, it's dangerous for cops at the police station. So Bheki Cele and the police management are completely null and void, in my opinion. I think they are useless. They need to be replaced.
All right, Dereleen, you wanted to come in and we lost you earlier, but you were saying the same thing essentially, that there are good cops, but there are also bad cops. Training is an issue and they don't have the resources that they need.
Absolutely. I think our country in every department is grossly under-resourced. I mean, even if we speak about extra boots on the ground, and I'm going to speak to something that I know, so in case anyone wants to challenge me, where they say, we are deploying additional manpower to a specific area. That community just gets additional manpower until the next fire in another community, and they all get withdrawn and get sent to a different area. For starters, we don't have enough social workers to deal with all of these matters. Our courts are grossly under-resourced. You have boxes and boxes of protection orders lying with the courts. Why Department of Justice and NPA is not part of these conversations, I'm not sure. You have a backlog at forensics at the lab going back years. We are attending cases, court cases, probably for the past 5 years, where we are still waiting on outstanding forensics from the lab, and it's just not going anywhere. So the light at the end of this tunnel is really yet to be seen.
If we look at the top murders, Dereleen, in Nanda in KwaZulu-Natal, Umlazi in KwaZulu-Natal, and Nyanga in the Western Cape. And I think you've said before, you don't want Eldorado Park to turn into a Nyanga or one of those hotspots. I mean, are similar things playing out? Is there a model that police could look at to address troublesome areas?
But this is what we've been saying. Let us look at a model that is integrated, that does not just speak to, because remember, we have generators of crime. We have poverty. We have, there's so many things that contribute to crime. We have schools that's not being governed properly. We have governance. We have poor service delivery as a result of the, mayors being chopped and changed every day. So let's come up with a model in a community and roll it out to different areas and be sustainable. Eldorado Park on Monday, Sunday night, I think it was on Sunday, where we picked up a 29-year-old girl that was shot. She was just walking in the street and she was shot twice through the chest and she leaves behind 4 kids. So that is what it has come to in our community, where people are just, women are being gunned down simply for just walking in the street. And you know what the harsh reality is here? The more we speak truth and the more we challenge, the more we get ostracized and victimized.
Ian, can you come in there? I spoke to a Western Cape MEC who was saying that they were coming up with innovative ideas to deal with gangland areas. We still have Nyanga among the top 3. Is there any model that is working?
So there are parts of, for example, Delft. There are several parts of the Cape Flats where some of the initiatives, I believe, from the Western Cape government, as well as the city of Cape Town, has had a positive impact, especially in terms of boots on the ground with their law enforcement advancement program. I know they're pushing a lot of resources into further developing the Metro Police Department and other law enforcement entities in and around the city, but also the province as the Western Cape. I think the challenge that we have at the moment, and this is why, the devolution idea specifically around the Western Cape is being pushed, is that those entities are good with boots on the ground. It can have good preventative measures, but at the end of the day, the case is handed over to the South African Police Service, and that is usually where it falls flat. It's not investigated properly, and when it is, it falls flat when it comes to the prosecution. And that's why I agree with Dereleen. It's so important that there's an integrated approach, because it seems as though everyone just wants to point fingers at the police, but it's important that the Minister of Justice is also there. The Department of Social Development should be there with them. Yeah. This joint cycle needs to, sorry, my voice is leaving me, but there's this joint cycle that needs to be completed. Otherwise, we cannot combat crime. Crime isn't something that can only be combated, for example, with a gun and a torch. There are so many other positive ways Ian, we can do this.
Ian, I understand what you're saying. We looked at the rape rates, above 10,000 rapes happening and around 200 or so convictions. So it plays out in the numbers. My final quick question to you, though, is you spoke about boots on the ground. Dereleen said they come and go. What do you make of the police minister saying 10,000 more SAPS members will be deployed over the festive season? Is that something to take heart in?
No, not really. Look, we've lost between 20 and 30,000 SAPS members in the last 5 to 10 years, if not more. A lot of them are leaving on pensions. They're signing about 300 cops going off on pension per month at the moment, according to my knowledge. And remember that thousands of those new recruits bought their way into the training colleges. It was confirmed last week by the South African Police Service. So not only are many of them corrupt already, it's also a thing that, it's not going to solve the major long-term crime issue. It might have a short-term impact on the ground, but it will be short-lived. Criminals would just adjust the modus operandi and continue doing what they're doing.
All right. Thank you both. Although no heartening news, and we're just seeing those serious crimes going up and up and up. That was Dereleen James, an anti-drug activist in Eldorado Park in Johannesburg. Ian Cameron, Director of Community Safety at Action Society.